Blue,
And I'm Helena.
and we're going to spill the tea about our time in the villa.
Day one going into the villa was really surreal. It was an amazing day that I'll never forget.
Entering the Love Island villa for the second time, obviously it was a little bit.
Exclusive. Love Island's Harry Cooksley exposes nasty Casa Amor secret. There are plenty of fun things about living in the Love Island villa, like getting an all-expenses-paid holiday and hanging out with your mates all day, but, believe it or not, there are also some downsides to villa life. The Islanders never know what time it is, which must be hella confusing, and let's face it, sharing only 2 bathrooms between over a dozen people is definitely not nice. But it turns out that the toilet situation in Casa Amor is even worse, as revealed by Love Island 2025's Harry Cooksley, who paid a visit to Closer HQ alongside Catch Miriam Mercer, Jamie Rhodes, and Ty Isherwood earlier this week. I'll tell you one thing that was not nice in there. It wasn't in the main villa, it was in Casa, so there was 7 guys, 6 girls, we had 1 toilet in Casa Amor. That was nasty work, he told us, and honestly, that sounds grim. We already know that having to use the loo in the villa is not a pleasant experience. In fact, Andrada Pop recently told us that one of the villa toilets was nicknamed the dungeon because the boys used it to do their business. Harry and Catch also lifted the lid, pun not intended, on the dungeon, and let's just say you should probably come back to this story later if you're eating. Me and Harry, we were on a similar sh*t schedule. He'd go sh*t and I'd go to him, how long ago did you go? And he'd be like, give it 5, give it 10, or 15. Every single day, and I'd be like, alright, cool. But yeah, the dungeon, it's a dark place, boy. Not good lighting in there. At least they're regular, we guess. Andrada recently shared the secret hack she used for doing a sneaky number 2 in the villa. We ask all the important questions, don't we? For us girls, it's like, you want to do a number 2 and you're like, what toilet do I go in? Because if my man is going in after me, it's no good. That was the one thing that was really hard to manage, she explained. I'd have my perfume and go into the toilet that was the furthest away from where the boys were. The dungeon. Nathan Katnoria is Heat and Closer Online's senior digital writer. He became obsessed with Love Island when Malin Anderson came back to confront Terry Walsh in Series 2 and hasn't looked back since. When he's not interviewing former Islanders, Nathan is scrolling through their Instagram feeds for relationship updates and piping hot tea. Maya's return was never going to be quiet. The villa had fallen into a rhythm of arguments, stolen kisses, and desperate strategies, but the moment the news spread that Maya Jama was coming back, everything shifted. It wasn't just her presence that made hearts pound harder, it was what she was bringing with her. The dumped Islanders. The ghosts of the past weeks. The people thought gone for good, now stepping back under the bright lights of Mallorca, carrying unfinished stories, grudges, and second chances no one saw coming. The air inside the villa was heavy, sticky with anticipation. Islanders lounged by the fire pit, pretending to relax, but eyes kept darting to the entrance. Then it happened. Heels clicked against the stone path, the doors opened wide, and there she was, Maya, glowing, commanding, her smile sharp with mischief. The girls whispered, the boys straightened their shirts. Maya never walked in without purpose, and tonight her purpose was chaos. Her words rolled out slowly, calculated, meant to sting and excite. You thought you'd said goodbye. You thought the story was finished. But tonight, the story is starting again. Murmurs erupted. The dumped Islanders had been watching, waiting, plotting in the shadows, and now they were being unleashed. First to step out was Sophie, the girl who left far too early, cut down before she could truly explore. The villa gasped. Her confidence was electric, chin high, eyes scanning the couples who thought they were safe. Sophie wasn't here to fade into the background. She was here to test loyalties. Every girl's grip on their partner suddenly felt weaker, every boy's eyes betrayed a flicker of curiosity. Next came Callum, tall, smiling, and dangerous. He had left with regrets, but his return looked like redemption. The boys who thought they had claimed their territory now shifted uneasily. Callum was charming, smooth, the kind of threat who didn't need to try too hard. The camera caught one girl biting her lip, another crossing her arms, bracing for temptation. And then came Ellie, fiery, unapologetic, the Islander who stirred drama from the moment she walked in the first time. Her exit had felt like a relief for some, but now that relief shattered. The energy spiked. Whispers flew. Couples exchanged nervous looks. Ellie's smirk said it all, she wasn't back to play fair. The line of returns continued, one after another, the villa filling with the echoes of old heartbreaks and broken promises. Maya stood proud, watching as the drama wrote itself in real time. She didn't need to push further, she knew the bombshells had already been dropped. And the reactions, the reactions told the story better than words ever could. One boy couldn't hide his grin as his ex walked in, the kind of grin that spelled danger for his current partner. One girl whispered under her breath, "I knew this would happen." Another clutched her glass so tightly it looked like it might shatter. The fire pit gathering that followed was unlike any other. Islanders old and new, sitting in tense silence, waiting for Maya to deliver the next twist. And she did, in perfect fashion. She explained that not only were the dumped Islanders back, they weren't here for a cameo. They were here to compete again. To fight for love, for airtime, for redemption. No one was safe, no couple unshakable. What followed was raw chaos. The dumped Islanders wasted no time making moves. Sophie pulled one of the most coupled-up boys for a chat within minutes, her laughter carrying across the garden like a warning bell. Ellie set her sights on a boy she'd flirted with before, reminding him of their unfinished business. Callum leaned against the kitchen counter, drawing in a crowd effortlessly. The existing girls felt it, the shift, the insecurity creeping in. Conversations turned sharper, smiles forced, hugs tighter than usual. The fear of being replaced was written across every face. Islanders who once sat comfortably in their relationships now second-guessed everything. Had their partner really been loyal? Had they said those sweet words only because no one else was available? Maya had done what she always did best, she lit the match and stepped back to watch the fire burn. But the real shock wasn't just who came back, it was what they brought with them. Stories. Secrets. Things they had seen on the outside, things the villa never expected them to know. Sophie mentioned she'd watched certain episodes back, casually dropping a comment about what one boy had said behind his partner's back. Gasps echoed, jaws dropped, denial stammered. Ellie hinted at fan reactions, at tweets and clips that exposed weak links and fake connections. The villa was no longer sealed off, the outside world had seeped in, poisoning the bubble. For some, this was opportunity. A chance to prove themselves again, to rewrite their narrative, to steal the spotlight. For others, it was the beginning of the end. The dumped Islanders weren't just rivals, they were mirrors, reflecting all the cracks the current cast had tried to ignore. The night ended with tears in corners, whispers in bathrooms, stolen kisses caught on camera, and confessions whispered under duvets. And through it all, Maya's presence lingered, her laugh still echoing in the minds of Islanders who realized the game had changed forever. The sun rose on the villa with a different kind of tension. Normally, mornings carried sleepy yawns, coffee chatter, and the soft sound of sandals on tile. Today, the atmosphere was thick, eyes darting across the garden like soldiers preparing for battle. No one trusted anyone. Not fully. The dumped Islanders had slipped into the rhythm effortlessly, their energy mixing with the old cast like oil on water, dangerous, impossible to ignore. Sophie wasted no time. Before breakfast had even hit the table, she pulled Aaron aside, the boy who had claimed to be solid with his current partner. Cameras zoomed in on the way she brushed her hair back, the subtle smirk curling her lips. "I just feel like we didn't get enough time, you know," she whispered, her voice like velvet. Aaron laughed nervously, scratching the back of his neck, his eyes darting toward the villa as if afraid his current partner might catch him. But he didn't walk away. That hesitation was enough. Meanwhile, Ellie thrived on chaos. She didn't tiptoe, she stormed right into it. She approached Molly and said, with a casual shrug, "It's funny watching back and seeing how quickly you moved on after I left." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Molly stammered out a defense, but her voice trembled. Ellie had hit her where it hurt, the insecurity she thought she'd buried. By lunchtime, whispers of the confrontation spread like wildfire. Callum, on the other hand, played the long game. He wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic. He lounged by the pool, shirtless, tanned, sipping juice like he owned the place. The girls noticed. They always did. He let them come to him, flashing that disarming grin, asking questions with genuine interest. He didn't need to chase, they chased him. And that terrified the boys. By midday, Maya's twist had sunken fully. These islanders weren't here as guests. They were contenders. They could recouple, they could steal, they could turn everything upside down. That realization sat heavy in every conversation. Couples who once laughed freely now second-guessed every glance, every word. Trust fractured like glass. One of the rawest moments came that afternoon, when Sophie and Aaron's current partner clashed. Tears spilled, accusations flew, and the entire villa gathered around like spectators to a car crash. The argument wasn't just about Aaron's wandering attention, it was about the bigger truth. The dumped islanders had dragged out feelings that had never truly been buried. Jealousy, doubt, fear. Every couple now had to ask themselves, were they together because they truly wanted to be, or because there was no one else left? Meanwhile, Ellie cornered one of the quieter boys, teasing out confessions he had never dared speak aloud. "You know you've settled," she whispered, her voice low, dangerous. "You could do better. You could be happier." The look in his eyes said she wasn't wrong. And just like that, another couple teetered on the edge of collapse. What made this return so powerful wasn't just the temptation. It was the knowledge. These islanders had been out there. They had seen the public's opinions, the clips, the memes. They knew what the world thought. And they wielded that knowledge like a weapon. Ellie dropped hints about what people are saying, enough to rattle anyone. Sophie slyly mentioned the fan-favorite couples, planting seeds of doubt in those who weren't on the list. Callum, with a wink, said, "It's mad seeing what clips get shown outside," and left it hanging in the air, letting paranoia do the rest. By evening, the villa was split. Some islanders clung desperately to their partners, doubling down on their affection, whispering promises under the covers. Others drifted, testing the waters, curious if the returnees offered something better, stronger, more exciting. And then there were those caught in between, hearts and heads at war, terrified of making the wrong move but unable to ignore the pull. The fire pit that night was volcanic. Maya returned, her presence sending shivers through the garden. She called each islander to speak, her questions slicing through the air with surgical precision. "Do you feel secure in your couple?" she asked, her eyes sharp, knowing the truth already. Some lied, their voices shaky. Some told half-truths, hiding the fear beneath practiced smiles. A few dared to be honest, admitting they felt torn, confused, shaken by the return. And then came the bombshell. Maya announced that the dumped islanders weren't just back to mingle, they had power. Real power. Tomorrow night, they would each choose someone to go on a date with, regardless of current couples. The villa erupted. Gasps, groans, a few forced laughs to hide the dread. No one slept easily that night. Cameras caught whispered conversations in the dark. "If she picks you, what will you do?" one girl asked her partner, her voice trembling. "I'm with you," he promised, but his eyes didn't meet hers. In another bed, a boy admitted to his mate, "If Ellie picks me, I can't say no. I need to know what's there." The stage was set for disaster, and Maya had orchestrated it perfectly. The following morning, the dumped islanders strutted into the villa kitchen like they owned it. Breakfast wasn't just food, it was theater. Sophie giggled too loudly at Aaron's jokes. Ellie leaned a little too close to a boy already taken. Callum clinked glasses with the girls, making the boys' jaws tighten. It was a power play, and everyone knew it. When the date texts came through, the villa froze. Phones buzzed, names flashed, and chaos erupted. Sophie chose Aaron. Ellie chose a boy firmly coupled up, sparking immediate tears from his partner. Callum went bold, picking the girl everyone thought was unshakably happy, just to test the waters. Each choice was a grenade, exploding trust, sending shockwaves across the garden. The dates themselves were golden television. Laughter, chemistry, flirtation that crossed the line. The villa watched from a distance, nerves fraying, waiting for their partners to return. And when they did, the fallout was immediate. Some denied, some downplayed, some confessed, but the damage was done. Seeds of doubt had been planted, watered, and now they grew wild. By the second night, alliances had shifted. Couples cracked, new bonds formed, and the villa felt like a battleground. Maya's mission was complete. She had dragged the past back into the present, and nothing would ever be the same. The villa no longer felt like a retreat under the Spanish sun. It had transformed into a pressure cooker, the walls closing in as secrets multiplied and loyalties dissolved. Every look carried weight, every whisper set off suspicion, and every laugh in the wrong direction felt like betrayal. The dumped islanders were no longer outsiders. They had woven themselves back into the fabric of daily life, and in doing so, unraveled everything. The fallout from the dates lingered like smoke. Sophie and Aaron returned from theirs with a glow that couldn't be hidden, no matter how hard they tried. Aaron's partner noticed the shift instantly, the way his eyes sparkled when he recounted their fun little chat. It wasn't just jealousy, it was the realization that maybe she was only holding on to something that was already slipping away. Ellie's date created an earthquake. She had chosen Tom, the boy in one of the villa's strongest couples. Their partner had sat by the pool, chewing her lip raw while they were gone, and when Tom returned, the silence between them was deafening. Tom swore it was nothing, just a laugh, just a chat, but Ellie's smirk at dinner told a different story. She knew she had cracked the armor, and she wasn't about to stop pushing. Callum's date was calculated brilliance. He chose Liberty, the girl many thought was safe, unshakably loyal to her partner. But the moment she walked back through the villa gates, something was different. She laughed too loudly, tucked her hair behind her ear too often, replayed Callum's compliments with a dreamy look in her eye. Her partner saw it all, and his chest tightened with the knowledge that he wasn't the only one who could make her feel wanted. The aftershocks continued into the night. Conversations erupted in every corner. Some whispered, some shouted. Tears fell into pillows, wine glasses clinked in awkward silence, and under the fairy lights, stolen glances spoke louder than words. Ellie thrived. She prowled the villa like a cat who had cornered her prey, tossing casual comments that hit like daggers. Funny how quickly trust disappears, isn't it? She said one evening, her eyes dancing with mischief. The boys laughed nervously, the girls bristled. She didn't need to raise her voice, her mere presence was enough to keep everyone on edge. Sophie played the sweetheart role to perfection. She didn't attack directly, she just slid into conversations with ease, offering comfort, laughter, and that soft vulnerability that made the boys lean in closer. Her weapon was charm, and it worked. Couples cracked under the weight of comparison, girls quietly asking themselves, what does she have that I don't? Callum was the calm storm. He never pushed too hard, never seemed desperate. But that restraint made him more magnetic. The girls came to him, looking for reassurance, looking for the thrill of being noticed. He gave them just enough, then pulled back, leaving them wanting more. For the boys, it was torture. How do you fight someone who doesn't even have to try? The producers leaned into the chaos, dropping challenges designed to inflame. The infamous heart rate challenge returned, islanders performing steamy dances in neon costumes under pounding music. The dumped islanders went all out, leaving jaws on the floor and partners fuming. When Sophie danced for Aaron, his pulse spiked off the charts. His partner's face twisted in rage, the cameras catching every flicker of pain. Ellie's routine for Tom was even worse, her body pressed close, her whispers hot against his ear. The villa erupted after, accusations flying, voices raised in the garden. By now, the narrative was shifting. The original couples no longer looked like unbreakable love stories, they looked fragile, desperate, exposed. The dumped islanders had flipped the script, and suddenly, they weren't the villains, they were the underdogs fighting for their shot at happiness. Fans online buzzed with excitement, their tweets flashing across screens in the control room. "Ellie is savage but I love it," one read. Another, "Sophie deserves her second chance more than anyone." And then came Maya, striding back into the villa under the glow of torchlight. The islanders froze, their laughter dying instantly. They knew by now, when Maya appeared, destruction followed. She called them to the fire pit, her expression unreadable. "This isn't just about love anymore," she announced. "It's about choices. And tonight, those choices will decide who stays and who goes." The islanders stiffened, the words sinking in like stones in water. Another dumping. But this one was different. This time, the dumped islanders had a voice. Maya explained, the returnees would each choose one islander they believed didn't deserve to stay. Their words would be final. Gasps echoed around the fire pit. The power balance had shifted entirely. The islanders who had once pitted Sophie, Ellie, and Callum now stared at them with wide, fearful eyes. The speeches were brutal. Sophie stood, her voice calm but cutting, as she named one of the girls who had mocked her during her first stint. "I don't think you're here for the right reasons," she said simply, her tone steady, her eyes unblinking. The girl's jaw dropped, tears already brimming. Ellie's turn was venomous. She didn't hold back, dragging up every slight, every fake laugh, every whispered insult. "You act sweet in front of him, but we've all seen how quickly you talk behind his back," she spat. The villa erupted in gasps, the accused girl shaking her head furiously, her partner caught between disbelief and anger. Callum's choice was quieter, but no less devastating. He looked one boy in the eye, smiled almost kindly, and said, "You've been coasting. You're not really invested. Time to go." The boy tried to argue, but Maya's voice rang out, "Your time in the villa is over." Just like that, he was gone, suitcase in hand, the others staring in stunned silence. The power shift was complete. The dumped islanders were no longer intruders, they were rulers. Their presence dominated every conversation, their choices reshaping the villa's entire landscape. And Maya, watching it unfold, knew she had delivered one of the most iconic twists in Love Island history. That night, the villa burned with whispers. Some islanders vowed revenge. Others plotted alliances with the returnees, desperate to save themselves. A few broke down entirely, their confidence shattered, their relationships in ruins. The dumped islanders sat back, sipping drinks, smiling like kings and queens at their own coronation. The villa was no longer the same place it had been just a week before. The atmosphere carried a sharpness, like glass waiting to shatter at the slightest touch. The returnees had shifted everything, and now the original islanders lived under a cloud of fear. One wrong move, one careless glance, and their position could crumble. Sophie basked in her new influence. For the first time, she wasn't the girl pushed out too early or the one overlooked during recoupling. She was powerful, she was wanted, and she knew it. The way Aaron lingered near her in the mornings told a story that didn't need words. His partner noticed, of course, and the strain between them deepened with every passing hour. Sophie played it carefully, never outright stealing, but never stepping back either. Her presence was enough to make Aaron's partner unravel. Ellie was different. She wasn't there to quietly test waters, she was there to burn the villa to the ground. Every conversation with her carried a hidden blade. She pulled Tom aside again, leaning in close, whispering things his partner couldn't hear. When he walked back, his partner demanded answers, and his hesitation said everything. Ellie's power came not from stealing, but from sowing doubt. She didn't need to win Tom. She only needed to break the trust between him and his partner, and she was winning that battle. Callum thrived in the chaos. He floated between groups, always smiling, always calm, his confidence unshaken. Girls confided in him, boys glared at him, but no one could pin him down. He was the wild card, the islander who didn't need to raise his voice to dominate a room. It was maddening for the boys who had built their image on being the alpha. Callum didn't fight for dominance, he simply was dominant. The producers, sensing the storm brewing, threw in another twist, a challenge designed to test honesty. Islanders were hooked up to heart monitors and asked direct questions about their loyalty, attraction, and intentions. The results were brutal. Aaron's heart rate spiked when Sophie's name came up. His partner's face crumbled as the truth played on the big screen. Tom's rate soared at the mention of Ellie, and his partner burst into tears, storming out of the garden. Liberty's name paired with Callum drew gasps, her cheeks flushing as her partner clenched his jaw in rage. It wasn't just a game. It was exposure. And there was no hiding from the results. By evening, the villa was fractured into camps. Some islanders clung tightly to their couples, desperate to patch the cracks. Others openly admitted their curiosity for the returnees, tired of pretending their heads hadn't been turned. And a few stood in the middle, paralyzed by fear of choosing wrong. The drama peaked at dinner when Sophie and Aaron's partner finally exploded. Words flew across the table, accusations shouted, tears streaming. "You've been stringing me along while you're making eyes at her," she cried, slamming her glass down. Aaron stammered, insisting nothing happened, but Sophie's smile across the table betrayed him. The villa sat in stunned silence, every camera capturing the implosion of a once stable couple. Ellie, of course, stirred it further. "Maybe it's better to know now than later," she said sweetly, her tone dripping with poison. The partner glared, but the damage was done. Aaron's loyalty was gone, and everyone knew it. That same night, Liberty confronted her own doubts. She pulled her partner aside, her voice trembling as she admitted how Callum made her feel. "It's confusing, I know," she whispered, tears brimming. "But he says things that make me think." Her partner's face twisted in fury, his pride wounded more than his heart. Their relationship, once seen as the villa's strongest, now dangled by a thread. The dumped islanders had achieved what they came for, total disruption. And yet, the producers weren't finished. Maya returned once again, her presence commanding silence as the islanders gathered nervously. She announced a recoupling, but this one came with a savage twist. The dumped islanders would pick first. The villa erupted in nervous laughter, girls clutching their partners, boys fidgeting nervously. No one was safe. Sophie stepped forward first. The tension was unbearable. Every eye darted between Aaron and the others, waiting to see if she'd take her shot. With a deep breath, she chose Aaron. Gasps filled the air, Aaron's partner breaking down instantly, her dream shattered. Sophie smiled softly, her victory sealed. Next came Ellie. Her eyes locked on Tom, the room holding its breath. Would she really go for him? She smirked, pausing just long enough to let the suspense break nerves. Then she said his name. Tom rose, torn between guilt and excitement, while his partner sobbed uncontrollably on the bench. Ellie had done it, she had broken one of the villa's strongest couples in front of everyone. Callum was last. His choice would change everything. He scanned the girls, his grin unreadable, before settling on Liberty. The villa gasped in unison, Liberty's partner glaring daggers, his fists clenching so tightly his knuckles turned white. Callum's charm had won, and Liberty's conflicted heart had pushed her over the line. When the recoupling ended, the villa was unrecognizable. Relationships shattered, alliances redrawn, the power dynamics flipped completely. The dumped islanders had not only returned, they had taken over. The fallout was immediate. The girls left behind sobbed in the dressing room, mascara running, furious at both their exes and the returnees. The boys gathered in the kitchen, whispering about revenge, about how to win their partners back, or if it was even worth trying. The villa was divided, and trust was gone. That night, under the dim glow of lanterns, the new couples tried to settle in. Sophie and Aaron curled up together, laughter spilling into the night. Ellie draped herself over Tom, whispering things that made him blush. Liberty sat with Callum, her face conflicted but her body language undeniable. Across the garden, the scorned partners sat in silence, their dreams crushed, their futures uncertain. The viewers loved it. Social media exploded, hashtags trending within minutes. Ellie the Queen of Chaos, one tweet read. Callum just ended Liberty's relationship with a smile, said another. The audience had picked sides, and the villa's storylines shifted overnight. For Maya, the job was done. She had promised drama, and she had delivered it in spades. But for the Islanders left behind, the nightmare was only beginning. Because if the returnees could do this in just a few days, what else were they capable of before the final? Morning didn't so much break as grind forward, thick with the aftertaste of last night's recoupling. The villa's soundtrack had changed, no easy laughter, just clipped hellos, plates tapping the marble, someone sighing too loudly in the dressing room. People moved around each other like chess pieces, careful not to trigger explosions already primed. Sophie woke with that soft smile that said she was exactly where she'd wanted to be. Aaron hovered near her, protective without saying it, a hand on her shoulder when they passed through the kitchen. He tried not to look at his ex, but the cameras caught the flickers anyway, the guilt, the relief, the confusion he kept pretending wasn't there. Sophie's power was quieter than Ellie's, she didn't brandish it. She simply occupied the space as if she'd always belonged, and that steadiness drew people in. Ellie didn't hide. She stretched like a cat on the daybeds, sunglasses on, smirk dialed to danger. Tom brought her coffee, too sweet, exactly how she liked it, and they sat in a bubble of flirtation that dared anyone to puncture it. Tom's ex walked past without looking, eyes glassy, mouth set. The villa absorbed the moment like a bruise taking new color. Callum and Liberty were a study in almosts. They joked easily, drifted naturally into each other's orbit, then remembered the weight of their choice and stepped apart as if the sun had suddenly grown too hot. Liberty was careful, too aware of how she read to everyone else, but every time Callum laughed at something she said, her shoulders dropped, and the old ease returned. Her ex watched from the kitchen island, jaw tight, clinging to pride because that's all he had left. The producers struck while the emotions were raw. Phones vibrated across loungers and countertops. Islanders, please gather by the fire pit. No challenge costumes, no props. Just the announcement and the dread that came with it. When Maya walked in, the air shifted again, heads up, spines straight, smiles that didn't reach eyes. She didn't draw it out. Tonight is a public vote. The words were simple, the ramifications were not. Viewers have been voting for the couple they believe is most compatible, and they've also been voting for the Islanders they think are least genuine. A low ripple moved across the benches. Maya let it settle, then added the blade. And there's a twist. The returnees' new couples are not exempt. The returnees, even they flinched. Power had felt delicious last night. Accountability tasted different. Voting meant hours of waiting, which meant hours of unraveling. The villa scattered into pairs and trios that weren't supposed to exist. Sophie's exes, past flings, half-finished flirts, checked in on her under the guise of kindness but really to measure where their opportunities had gone. Aaron's ex avoided him all afternoon, which the cameras loved. Silence can be louder than a scream when a mic is close enough. Ellie did press. She and Tom ducked into shade behind the outdoor shower, swapping half-whispered truths. If this goes south, she said, I'm not carrying your apologies for you. Tom nodded too quickly, the kind of nod that looks convincing on TV until you replay it and see the fear behind it. Ellie wasn't interested in fear. She wanted clarity. And clarity, in Love Island terms, often looks like confrontation. The producers fed the hunger with a midday challenge called Truth Bites. Islanders drew cards with questions sourced from viewer comments, then answered while the group watched heart rate monitors climb and fall on a big screen. The questions were surgical. Aaron, name the last time you thought about kissing someone who isn't your current partner. A beat too long. Yesterday, he said, wincing. The screen blipped. Sophie's smile stayed in place, but the corner dipped. Liberty, if Casa Amor happened tomorrow, would you stay loyal? She swallowed. I don't know. Her heart rate rocketed like a confession. Callum stayed steady. He watched her answer without flinching, then looked away first. Tom, did you lead your ex on? He tried the diplomatic version of the truth. I thought I was sure until I wasn't. The screen spiked and stayed high. Ellie's laugh was short, sharp, not unkind. That's a yes, she said later to the girls, and nobody corrected her. By sundown, the villa was a pressure dome. Maya returned in black, as if to narratively underline that endings were on the table. The fire pit glowed, the faces did too, with tension. She read the safe couples first, names that made sense if you'd been watching the tiny moments, not the headlines. Then she listed those vulnerable, and the pattern was brutal. One original couple who had staggered through the week and two of the new returnee couplings. Liberty and Callum. Tom and Ellie. One more pair teetering on the edge. No one breathed properly. Before we reveal the result, Mia said, you will each give a 30-second statement. Not to me. To the person sitting next to you. It was a masterstroke. No audience is harder than the person you could hurt most. Liberty went first, voice small but clear. I don't know if I made the right choice last night. I do know I haven't felt hurt in a while, and with you I feel seen. She winced at her own honesty. Callum nodded once, then surprised everyone. I'm good at floating, he said. It keeps me safe. But when you talk, I forget to float. That's rare. If we're saved, I'll stop being cool and start being present. You could feel the boys taking mental notes, hating that it worked. Tom stared at his hands. Ellie reached over and flipped his palm, like she was checking the lines. Say the thing you're avoiding, she told him. He did. I liked being adored, he said to his ex across the fire pit without looking at her. But I didn't give it back in equal measure. With you, to Ellie now, I'm scared because you don't let me coast. Ellie's reply was clinical. Then sprint. Or let me go. I won't be your rehab. Her eyes softened a fraction on the last word, which probably saved them votes. Sophie and Aaron were oddly quiet, and when their turn came, Sophie didn't perform. I don't want to be your crisis decision, she said, simple as a stone. If this is real, it'll be real next week, too. Aaron whispered, it is, like it hurt. The vote closed. Maya held the card for a beat longer than necessary, then cut cleanly. Safe, Liberty and Callum. The shock rolled across the benches, half relief, half disbelief. It meant the bottom two were Tom and Ellie, and the other wobbling pair. But the night had one more twist, because of course it did. The final decision, Maya said, will not be made by the public. All heads snapped up. It will be made by the Islanders who were dumped earlier this season and are standing at the gate right now. The camera swung wide. Silhouettes formed in the arch, familiar faces, some smiling, some set. The original casualties of couplings gone wrong stepped back into frame, not to recouple, but to judge. A Greek chorus with a suitcase handle. They took turns, as if in a courtroom. One girl said of Tom, he's kind, but kind isn't the same as committed. Another looked straight at Ellie and said, you know exactly who you are, and the villa needs that even when it hates it. A lad who'd left on week one grinned at Liberty. That's the realest I've ever heard you talk. A different one nodded at Callum. You've been a ghost and a magnet. Pick one. The vote among the returnee jurors came down to 2 slips of paper and the kind of hush you get before thunder. There's a rhythm after a live night, the scramble to reframe your narrative before the new day edits you into someone you don't recognize. Ellie caught her ex by the kitchen sink and apologized in a way that wasn't a performance. "I didn't come back to humiliate you," she said. "I came back to find my match or my mistake quicker." He smiled because it was the cleanest ending they were going to get. Sophie sat on the steps and let Aaron talk. He stumbled through promises, then cut himself off. "I want to earn you," he said, and for once he didn't look at the nearest camera to see how it sounded. Liberty curled up on the beanbags with Callum, neither touching, both leaning in the tiniest bit. "You were brave," he said. She snorted. "No. I was messy." He shook his head. "Messy is honest. That's rarer in here than love." The villa exhaled as the sky broke out stars. Somewhere beyond the hedges, an edit suite hummed, stitching feelings into storylines, layering heartbeats under confessionals. Inside, people finally slept. Maya's legacy wasn't just that she brought the dumped Islanders back. It was that she made the villa answer to them via past versions, hard choices, the truth you leave behind when you perform instead of love. The returnees didn't simply return. They held up mirrors and asked everyone to look. The morning after felt lighter, not because the drama was over, but because it was now honest. Breakfast tasted of truce and possibility. Someone burned the toast and laughed without flinching. Challenges would come, temptations would be engineered, public votes would swing like pendulums. But the couples who survived the week would be sharper for it, edges filed by fire. By the pool, Liberty and Callum drew up an imaginary line with a finger across the tile. "No floating," she said. "No floating," he echoed. Across the way, Ellie dared Tom to plan a date without consulting the mirror. He said he'd try, which made her grin like a starting pistol. Sophie found a quiet corner and asked Aaron for time and effort, both, not one. He nodded and, for once, didn't reach for an easy joke. From the gate, the lights dipped and rose as crew wheeled something new into place for tomorrow's twist. The villa doesn't stop, it turns. And somewhere just out of shot, Maya smiled. She hadn't set the place on fire for the fun of flames. She'd done it so that what remained, if anything did, could stand the heat. The dumped Islanders had come back with receipts, with charisma, with unfinished business, and they had forced everyone to renegotiate the terms of love under lights. The game would reset again, because it always does. But the audience had seen something true slip through the edits tonight, accountability disguised as chaos. Love, if it arrived, would have to fight for space. And that makes for better television than any bombshell ever could.